it's a great start for us there. I've decided to kick things off on mute. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to your Sunday edition of This Is Ibrox. I'm your host, Adam Robertson. We're going to be chatting through Rangers' 2-1 victory over Motherwell earlier today. We'll go through all the big moments and have a bit of chat about where we're all at with this side going forward following that performance. This show is brought to you in association with our friends who are giving every Rangers fan the opportunity to own their own memorable coin collection. Zenith have created a set of 5 wonderfully crafted coins, each celebrating huge milestones in the club's 150-year history. There's a coin for the founding fathers, there's one for Ibrox Stadium, one for the European Cup Winners' Cup winning squad of 1972, the 9-in-a-row side, and the 55th League Championship under Steven Gerrard. You should visit their website at www.zenithcoins.com to check those out. Turning to today's game and our chat tonight, I'm first of all joined by Ben. How are you? You'll be at least glad that we're dissecting a win rather than what we were doing earlier this week.
Yeah, you know, we're on the up. Yeah, I'm pleased to be here. My debut on a Sunday night show, so looking forward to it.
Big night ahead, and I've also got Shug with me. How are you?
I'm moderately happy. 3 points were important today, but I will talk about the game, I'm sure. So yeah, 3 points.
Yeah, I think so. We'll come on to the debate of performance versus results throughout the show. Evening to everyone that's in the comments and that. Please do keep them coming in. I have to confess, folks, I'm only seeing them off of highlights. So if there's anything that I do miss at any stage, any kind of big moments or that, please do just let me know. Ben, let's sort of cast our minds back to when the team sheet was first released. Did you take confidence from recent domestic form going into this game, or were you still a little bit worried about the potential impact of the Liverpool result?
I mean, there was always going to be that little bit in the back of your mind, how we're going to respond to this, and also without Goulson, who plays every minute, basically, you know, it's a big change for the team. But I was relatively confident. We've obviously a great record going to Motherwell. We obviously struggled against them at home last year more, but we beat them twice away. So I was confident, but certainly interested to see how we respond. You know, we're not used to taking doings like that, are we? So.
Yeah, we've had a couple of comments come in already, Shug. The first one was that it won't take long to talk about today's game. There wasn't really a huge amount to talk about. I mean, coming into this, Motherwell had only 1 win in their last 6. Were you perhaps expecting a better performance from Rangers than we got in the end?
I don't know. I know that it said before the games, I think it's like 54 games unbeaten against Motherwell in the league, and but for me, I've just got bad memories of Park. I think it's maybe that playoff game. It's just felt sitting in my brain all the time. So I was expecting a tough game from Motherwell. They always make it hard for us. The pitch was absolutely fantastic, and Stevie Hamill seems to have got them playing a bit more attacking than your typical Graham Alexander, Stephen Robinson molded team. But I think that hammering the other night is not the word for it. I think it's taking that in players' confidence, and I guess with the sort of losing your rogue, I guess, of defence and things like that, and other problems going on, I think it's happy enough just to get a win. I wasn't really overly fussed, just knew we had to get the 3 points after they won yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also had a comment come in there, I should say, about Yilmaz. He's definitely going to be part of our discussion later on in the podcast. We are just going to fly through the game. I have to say, as I said, I'm only going off the highlights, but it really didn't seem like there was a lot of action in the first half. I've got a couple of stats that seem to kind of tell the story. Rangers managed 3 shots on target, but their XG was just 0.19. Motherwell had just the 1 shot on target, and their XG was 0.044 rather. Ben, could you sort of do your best to sum up that first half? What was wrong with Rangers? Did they just not quite look at it?
Yeah, it was lethargic would be the best word. It was just a bit of huff and puff, but we just never really looked like getting that real chance on goal, and really breaking the lines. Motherwell were poor, very poor, but we were just, you know, slightly better, but not an awful lot. Just slow. The tempo was just very, very slow, and it just didn't look like anyone was going to grab the game, you know, by the scruff of the neck. And what we needed to do was be running at them a little bit more, as we'll get on to, as we saw with our first goal. You know, everything was sort of, for me, was side to side, and just it was just at a nice tempo for Motherwell. It's exactly what you want. You know, once we start moving the ball fast, teams like that cannot cannot live with it and cannot cope with it. So that was where we went wrong. There was very little to talk about in the first half, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shug, the only thing I will say is just before we came on, you did mention a couple of chances that Rangers could perhaps have done better with. Could you talk me through them? And is that a fair assessment? Should they have done a lot better with them?
Yeah, I think they should definitely have done better with them. First one was Kent, and I don't know if it's a confidence thing or just Ryan Kent last season even. He should take on his left foot, but he decides to turn on his right foot and he gets closed down. We all know that Kent's got a great left foot as well as a great right foot. So why he chose to turn and give the defender a chance to close him down, I don't know. And then Marek Tillman has pretty much a setup. And I think they're both in open 10 minutes. And you take one or both of them chances, it becomes a different story. I think the stat that stood out for me was Motherwell didn't have a single touch inside the Rangers box in the first half, which was, I guess, I'm guessing it's sort of part of things that because the goals and missing and uncertainty in defence were maybe a bit more conservative than we needed to be. And we made sure that we kept the back door shut. But we've really got to do better going forward. I tended to feel that the ball just wasn't sticking anytime we went up the line. I don't know how many times I saw Barisic or Lundstrom, Davies, King all throwing their hands up in the air because of lack of movement in front of them. It was just a common theme throughout that first half. They throwing that, turning the ball, passing it back inside and throwing the arms in the air because there was nothing moving. And then when it was, McPondo was losing the ball and Kent was losing the ball, Tillman was losing the ball. It was second touch was a tackle, a bit like my skill days, which is disappointing to see. And if you've got a front line that's not holding the ball up in a midfield without too much creativity, we're always going to struggle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to just pick up on a comment that's come in just because Shug's mentioned Ryan Kent there, who we think is certainly struggling in front of goal, perhaps struggling with confidence a little bit. It's saying that it's quite a harsh comment, but it's still one I would agree with nonetheless, saying that we're playing with 10 men every game at the minute when Kent seems to be playing. Why is Gio afraid to drop him? What do you make of that?
Right now, it's very, very difficult to disagree with that. In fact, impossible to disagree with that. He shouldn't have. I mean, he was dropped last weekend, and for me, he comes in again in the Champions League, which we'll not dwell on too much. But he comes in and makes no impact. So I don't understand why he was back in the team again today, especially when Sakala actually has been better when he's been given the chance of late. I was surprised not to see him involved at all. And Kent needs to be taken out of the firing line and to be made aware that you're not guaranteed a starting place, which at this minute in time it appears that he is. He's been dropped once. That's the only time I can ever think of him not starting. And yeah, he's making little or no impact whatsoever, and really needs to up his game. The most frustrating thing with Kent is you see that sort of little blast of what he can do. When he does take anyone on, there's not a defender in the league when he really goes at it, and when he's on his game, they can't deal with him. Nobody can, and it's so frustrating. You'd rather him taking people on and going for it. And okay, it's not going to come off every single time. If it did, and if he was at that level, he wouldn't be at Rangers. Let's be honest. So go for it. Take them on. If you don't beat them each time, or the cross isn't good enough, keep going. Don't be afraid. Don't hide. And I feel like that's what he's doing at the minute. And I understand there's a big element of confidence in football's a confidence game, and there's no doubt his confidence is low. But it's only going to get better when he starts to play his game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shug. Let's just kind of focus in on Kent for a minute because he's been mentioned in the comments, and I think he is worth a talking point. Rangers' next 3 domestic games are all at home, and I'm just wondering, do you think the manager should continue as he seems to be doing just now to play him through it? Is there an argument for that? Because it's unlikely to start against Dundee, I suppose we should caveat that with. But what do you think the strategy and the thinking from Van Bronckhorst to just continually play him is? Because we can see that he's not quite up to it at the minute.
Yeah, domestically we've been playing them through it for about the last 40 games. It's just been nowhere near it. Some good performances in Europe last season, but at Rangers, you need far more than that.
Yeah.
I know wingers come with a warning that you're not going to have good games all the time as a winger, but once in a blue moon would be a good thing for Ryan Kent just now.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing to see, especially with without a contract at the end of the season. I mean, you would have thought, I always think it'd be a loving chance for contracts and how he only showed up the season he was due, his contract was due up, Peter Lundgren's would show up. Ryan Kent's not done that, so I don't even think teams looking at him would be interested in the way he's going. So I don't know, we never know what's going on behind closed doors with players and things like that, but there's definitely something not working for him. I've heard people say that it's the playing position because he played as a 10, a wide 10 under Gerrard, but now he's expected to play as a winger under Chico. But even that, I mean, Barras is just coping a lot of criticism, but he's really our only outball on the left-hand side. He's the only one that's getting crosses in, he's the only one creating a threat. So I don't know what the solution is. We can definitely need some time out of the team. But the problem we've had is that Tondo's come in there, he's not putting his name on the demanding more game time. It's got right. Fashion, I thought, Spain say that, I thought Fashion's totally unlucky not to be involved at all today, actually. But I mean, these players, when they get the opportunities, they're going to have to really nail down that spot. And Kent's place is there for a taking, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we have had one comment say they were taking their lad to his game, so he missed the match. And as our admin has probably rightly said, he did probably see better football there. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it was probably more entertaining than it seems what Rangers fans were watching anyway. Ben, let's turn back to the game. You know, the halftime whistle goes. Were you worried about that second half, or did you at least think that because, as Shug alluded to earlier, Motherwell really were offering so little going forward that Rangers would get the job done? I know we're talking in hindsight, the game's over, but what was your feeling at that point?
I mean, at that point, with our first half performance being so dire, I mean, I was concerned a little bit. But you just gotta keep thinking that a team that is offering nothing, and actually when Shug was saying about those chances in the first half, it does make you think, okay, we were poor, we were very poor, but we did create chances. And there was actually one other chance for Tillman as well, just outside the box in the first half, where he creates space. He does well to create the space, but he more or less passes it straight to the keeper. So you've got to think, if you're going to create those chances, that we will put one of them away. And we didn't really create the clear cut chances, but we managed to, for the first goal, we managed to just create it out of nothing. But yeah, you've got to believe that, with our bench and with our team, that we have enough to create something. And especially the form that Cholak, he didn't end up scoring and he didn't end up getting anything created for him, but the form that he's in, you've got to believe when he's on the pitch, if we create something, he is the man to put it in the net.
Yeah. Shug, let's talk about the goal, because I do think that somebody earlier said it was the sort of sole exciting moment in the game, and we have actually had another comment come in there that's saying Tillman hadn't actually played that well up until this point, they didn't think, but he picks up the ball near the halfway line, charges through, I think it was 5 defenders, and slots it quite coolly past Liam Kelly. What did you make of the goal?
Yeah, I would argue that even after the goal, Tillman didn't do anything. Thought he was poor other than the goal. He was poor, but that's the kind of thing you need in these sort of games. It's the confidence to actually just pick the ball up and run it. Players, you're going to at least get a foul out of it. Wasn't it Motherwell players? Luckily, none of them decided to foul him. Seen Stevie Hamill talking about it afterwards, saying none of them put the professional foul in that we did on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
But they're saying we wouldn't be calling for red cards like he was after it. But yeah, he did well, picked up well, beat the players. Like I said, I don't think there was one proper challenge put in on him, and then he finished it brilliantly. Had the composure when he got out of the box, and I was hoping from that moment on that would liven him up, and because he was playing more simply, I did think at the start of the second half he dropped a bit deeper in the state, because just before that he'd sold the shot and put Van Veen in for a chance, and the next thing he touches and he goes and does that. Then you see me push up again, so I don't know what the thinking or the tactics behind it all were, but it was definitely his one moment, and probably in this squad it's got him a stop for midweek anyway, and probably next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, it's a big goal for him, isn't it? Because he hadn't started a Premiership game since that Old Firm defeat. Now, obviously, we had a game cancelled in there due to the death of the Queen, but I wouldn't necessarily say there was any more pressure on Malik Tillman today than you have when you play for Rangers. But after such a positive start and then that slight drop off, it was good to get him. You know, it was good to see him back scoring at least, even if the performance wasn't quite all round.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I would agree with Shug. I don't think his performance was actually very good. But big players might not be playing well, but they take the game, as I said before, by the scruff of the neck, and they make something happen for their team. And the fact that he hasn't played has to come into, you can't, especially with young players, they're going to be inconsistent anyway. But when he hasn't had a lot of football in the last, quite a few weeks, I'm not sure exactly how many since that Celtic game. I've tried to erase it from my memory. But he hasn't played a lot of football, so he's not going to be totally on his game performance-wise. But he still had the composure to finish. I thought the goal was great, but I have to say I thought the defending was absolutely appalling. I mean, there's no tackle there. Like, even if it is a foul, as Shug said, you've got to stop that man. 5 of them, are just standing beside him. But he still has to do his part no matter what. And then to get in there and to be composed, to have the finish, because there was a part of me thinking, he's going to blaze this over or whatever, rush of blood to the head, but he didn't, and that was great. So yeah, it's a positive, and hopefully it gives him the confidence to kick on, because we saw at the start of the season there's a player there, there's a great player there. As I said, he's young, he will be inconsistent, he's not going to be 8, 9 out of 10 every game, but hopefully, if he can win us games, which he played a big part in doing that today. When he's not on the top of his game, then hopefully when he is, he can have a big part to play in this season.
Yeah, just to sum up today's game in terms of how little action there was, the chat has actually descended into talk about the wallpaper behind me. So thanks very much for everyone bringing in your comments about that. But that clearly kind of sums up today's game. Shug, let's move on to the second one. Barisic corner, second goal rather. A Barisic corner swings in, and Lundstrom manages to head it home. Looks like it maybe takes a deflection. I've only seen the highlights. I'm not quite sure. From what I can gather, though, just going off our group chat, Lundstrom still seemed to pick up a bit of stick. Is that fair? Was it kind of similar to Tillman, where his all-round performance wasn't perhaps great despite the goal?
Yeah, he sold us twice. I think we gave away bookings. Like King's booking came from a Lundstrom back pass, and somebody else got booked. Can't remember who it was. Starting with a few from a Lundstrom missed pass. It's definitely not at his best. Not anywhere near it. I mean, the goal, it's a good goal, and I was delighted that Barisic got an assist because he put in some great crosses. Cholak should have scored one from, and it's just in the dangerous parts of the box and players not being there. But yeah, Lundstrom is another one that I don't know. I always feel that you need a partner in his position. I thought he played his best football last year when he Ryan Track next to him. Like Ryan Kinner was going to say next to him. That might be worth a try. Maybe Kid can do better there. But when you get somebody consistently next to you and he's chopping and changing, having to change his role and things like that. So don't know what would make the Lunny, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a favourite he made player. Maybe he'll be the player that shows up big in the running and it's the title, but it's definitely I don't know if there's so much pressure on him, but he's not a John Lundstrom that was the best on earth.
Yeah, Ben, what have you made over John Lundstrom these last few weeks? Are you with Shug there that, obviously the partners are chopping and changing slightly? Is it solely down to Lundstrom? Is it a combination of both? Where are you on that debate at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it is. For me, it is a combination of both. There's a lot of pressure on him. He is the one constant in there. He's playing in a team that isn't exactly fluid and playing wonderfully at this minute in time. He's playing basically every minute as well. So he's not getting a lot of rest. He certainly isn't, as Chuck said, he isn't what he was at the end of last season. He isn't the best on earth, although I did when he put that ball in it, I felt like he was the best on earth today. But he had a poor game today. And he did, as you say, cost his teammates a couple of bookings and stuff. But it's, as I said, he's playing every game. He doesn't know who he's going to be playing beside. It's very difficult for him. But I'm just hoping that he can refine his form. We all know what he's capable of, and yeah, he had an off game, but I'm not terribly worried about it because I know what he can be, and I think he has the character to find it. One thing I'll say for him, like when you talk about particularly Kent and stuff, without trying to have another go at him, people are in the comments and rightly saying it's like playing with hen. He kind of goes missing. Kent, he hides a wee bit when he's not on his game, but Lundstrom's always there. He's always wanting the ball, even when he's not playing well. So he's always stands up and be counted. He's not going to play wonderfully every game, but he's there.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with that. In fact, we had a comment come in that kind of similar thing. He said, John has not been as good as he has been, but he is by no means the worst in the team. And I would agree with everything that you say there, Ben, where it does feel slightly different. Admittedly, Lundstrom is playing in the midfield where it is perhaps slightly easier to make yourself known in that sense than Ryan Kent, but I still do understand where you're coming from. We had some quite interesting comments come in there about, what we're going to come on to about it's still 3 points. So I do just want to kind of wrap up the last talking point of the game. Shug, Motherwell have a corner on the left-hand side. I mean, it just kind of swings in and goes over Alan McGregor's head. What did you make of this? It seemed to really, I have to say, when I was watching it back and I seen where the free kick was, I was incredibly surprised.
Yeah, I'm happy you came at me with the McGregor question. He was 100% at fault for that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Motherwell boy has struck it brilliantly. It's the kind of ball you want to put in that. So I think it's shown that keep us scared and things like that, but McGregor's definitely paced towards the ball and not expected in. It's just went over his head into the back corner. Gio doesn't seem too concerned. It's one in 100, I think he's seen something along the end lines that'll happen. But McGregor at his best, it's just he seems like he doesn't he punches that, gets rid of that somewhere or another, but it's back to the old debate and the old arguments and stuff like that, and it's not McGregor or McLaughlin that should have been replaced in the summer. We should have had a goalkeeper in. We've got McLaughlin is not good enough to play Rangers number one. McGregor is probably past being a number one, Rangers number one now, and it's going to come back to the whole Gio, Ross Wilson, Stuart Robertson board, who's to blame for things. And in this case, I'd say Ross Wilson. Should have had keepers lined up. That's sort of his remit, I would imagine. He knew what age McGregor was. Everybody saw the telltale signs towards the end of last season. And even before that, it's something that should have been addressed in the summer. John McLaughlin's not. You just need to look at John McLaughlin's career. He's never played at a top level, and that's why keepers get to 30-year-old. And they've never been a number two at Rangers is the only claim to fame. Hearts keeper and a Sunderland keeper in League One is not exactly big news. It's not worth it being a Rangers number one. So, Robbie McCrory's been given a new contract, still appears to be third choice. So, I think it all comes back to the summer, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't cost us between now and January, and we can get somebody in January to come in and be the Rangers number one. Definitely needs addressed.
Yeah, we've had a question come in. I just want to kind of pick up on it because we are definitely going to get to it later in the show, which is about Van Bronckhorst and sort of where we are with the manager, and perhaps even if we do believe that he should be the manager for the foreseeable future, why that is. But Ben, let's just kind of quickly talk about overall feelings on the game. I mean, are you sort of glass half full or glass empty? I mean, Rangers see it out, but they do concede a goal like that. So, in future, I know it's all ifs, buts and maybes, but, if they're only up 1-0, does that kind of concern you going forward? Where were you at the end of the game? Other than just relieved that you didn't have to watch it anymore.
Yeah, the latter. But yeah, no, we conceded a freak goal at the end of the day, and McGregor right now, just quickly to touch on that, McGregor right now is the best keeper that we have by a country mile. I agree with everything Shug said on McLaughlin. He's just not a Rangers number one. He proved that really at Celtic Park for me. But we conceded a freak. We at the end of the day, people say it wasn't a great performance, but after the week we've had, confidence is going to be dented. We've injuries, we've changes in the team. You know, all we needed to do, I would have loved us to play wonderfully and win 12-0, but, you know, we've got 3 points. We're 2 points off the top of the league. You know, would people, I know this is a stupid question in a way, but would people rather, you know, we play brilliant football and we draw that 2-2, or we win it 2-1 by not being wonderful? You know, I want us to be playing well, and we do need to improve in our performances, but we build confidence by winning games again, because it has been dented, and just getting 3 points on the board is, you know, I'm never happy when it's a 1-goal, you know, league going into any game. It doesn't matter if you've got, you know, Ederson in goal there. You're still, you know, a 1-goal lead still makes you nervous. But you know, I never really felt like they were gonna get the equaliser there, and if they had have done it, would have been totally undeserved.
Yeah, Shug, what side of the debate do you come down on there? I mean, I watched John Lundstrom's post-match interview, and he described it as a proper performance. A couple of folk, I think, have mentioned in the chat that, you know, they have ultimately still gone away from home and got 3 points. What were your thoughts on Lundstrom's comments describing it as a proper performance? And then secondly, where do you stand on, are you just happy with the 3 points, or are you really still kind of a bit negative about it?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it means by proper performance. In terms of doing what they had to do, digging deep, tough week for everybody at the club. And getting the result, then yeah, it was a performance on that. But in terms of playing delightful football and running away with things and comfortable, it definitely wasn't. But I'm definitely said before the game, 3 points is all really hard. It's all a little more between now and the end of the season. I think there's a lot of pressure being put on because they keep winning the big scores and things and all that. So we're expecting us to go and do that, but I never remember Rangers being a team that consistently blew teams away. I've always remembered us being that team that gets the wins. We get them stuffy wins, we get them ones, and I know it's not going to work out if he draws any or he draws many, but Gio's still never lost to anybody outside of them in the SPFL. And we know that if we win every game between now and then, end of the season, we'll win the league. So I'll take a 1-0 victory or 2-1 victory all season. I don't know if my heart will take it right enough, but I'll definitely take it, and it's definitely results over performance every day of the week. As Ben says, I wouldn't want to be playing Man City football and drawing 2-0. So definitely happy with the 3 points.
Yeah, kind of echoing what
I think, Adam.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
I think just to be fair to Lundstrom, although he did say proper performance, he did caveat that by saying that it wasn't pretty. You know, so I think he was. I can't read his mind, but I think he was alluding to we dug deep and we got the result. So I think people are maybe taking it a wee bit out of context.
Yes, no, I would suggest that I should have mentioned he has caveated it. With that, I could kind of understand where he was coming from. Still, maybe not perhaps what people quite wanted to hear, but it's probably not worth reading as much into as we maybe have. Kind of echoing you guys both what people are saying in the comments, people saying we've won, that's a positive. Everything else is a little bit worrying. It wasn't a good display at all, but we wanted 3 points and we did get them. Guys, I want to kind of talk about the manager, because I was going to pick up on it a little bit later in the podcast, but people were mentioning it in the comments there. Ben, I'll come to you first. You know, where are you with the manager at the minute? You know, obviously following a 7-1 defeat, the kind of immediate aftermath of that is going to be quite raw. People might react to it quite negatively and then change their mind. They might not. Everyone's entitled to their opinion at any time. But where are you with him? I mean, we had a kind of quite straightforward but nonetheless good question of, do you see us winning the league with him?
I'll answer the first one first. Where I am with him is sort of on the fence. At this minute in time and full time on Wednesday, I would not have sacked the manager or thought of sacking the manager. It was a terrible and embarrassing, and no Rangers team should ever lose 7-1. But you know, you lose 7-1 to a team that have Mo Salah in the best form, you know, who's one of the best players in the world, you know, it's just very, very difficult for us to be even thinking about competing with a team like that. we shouldn't be losing the way we did. The last half an hour was not good enough. But the players have to take some responsibility as well. I'm certainly not totally convinced by the manager. I think the Europa League run really is saving him quite a bit. When you look at the domestic situation, when he came in, the lead that we had to how the season ended, and then the form hasn't been wonderful. My problem is what I expected when we were getting this Dutch manager, take away even the fact that he's played for the club and all, but we were getting a Dutch manager. I expected a better brand of football that I just don't feel we're getting right now. However, it comes back to that old question: is he picking the players because there's no Dutch influence? There's no players coming in. You're wondering, is it Ross Wilson signing them? Is it him? We don't know. But I feel like the performance could be better. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna jump on the manager out bandwagon on the basis of us struggling and struggling quite a bit in the Champions League group that has the teams that are in it. I mean, top of Serie A, team that's just beaten Liverpool, have just beaten Man City, the best team in the world, in my opinion. Today, and then you've got Ajax, who are a great team as well. And I don't feel like whether it's him now, if it is the manager, I don't feel like we have replaced the players we lost in the summer. If it is the manager, then that's his fault. But if not, I feel like the problem at the club at this moment in time goes deeper than just the manager. I feel like Ross Wilson has a big part to play in that. So do I feel like we can win the league with him? I have my doubts, if I'm honest, because his record against Celtic is not good enough. Aggregate score of 11-4 against is his games was against Celtic, so that concerns me deeply. We have taken too many heavy defeats against him, but at the other end, as Shug said, he hasn't lost to anyone domestically other than them. It's just the fact that he's lost heavily to them twice and lost at home to them in the only home game he's had, which concerns me. But I wouldn't at this minute in time when we're, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but when we are only 2 points off top of the league, we effectively are, we would have been joint top of the league, but for the Willie Collum show, and also for them getting a late winner last week, so you cannot be sacking your manager when you're in that position.
Yeah, Shug, I mean, a couple of things to pick up on. I mean, one stat that I thought was quite interesting, somebody put it in our group chat, was that we have above the average number of points we've had after 10 games in our last 6 title wins. And somebody did mention earlier, they're not at all far behind Celtic, but also, I'm noting in the comments, there's a couple of people saying, perhaps if we think we're not going to win the league with him, why keep him? Someone else has mentioned that Thomas Tuchel obviously won a European Cup with Chelsea and results ultimately ended up getting him sacked. I would personally say that the situation there is slightly different. For example, I would suggest that a Champions League loss to Chelsea, I don't want to say it has more impact, but obviously Rangers losing to Liverpool perhaps isn't as shocking as Chelsea going away to the team in pot 4 and losing to them. Kind of a long-winded question there, but similar to what I asked Ben, where are you with the manager and what do you make of some calls for him to perhaps lose his job sooner rather than later?
Well, I was saying you're going to see somebody suggesting Thomas Tuchel's on the market, which is good. I think that's a bit of a bargain. No, January's New Year derby is going to be massive. It's going to be huge. I mean, we've had the 2 bad losses to them with Managerial, but I felt the game we lost to Ibrox, I thought we were a better team in it. I thought the opponents in the cup semi and moving through it there, but we were a better team in the end game. So it's being clinical in these games and not giving them a stop. We know that if we can keep going for an hour, they'll just run out of steam. So I know they get big results, but I'm more confident Rangers going and winning games against the very teams in the league than they are. Them going and doing it, I don't know, we've just got a style of play that like we can go for 90, they want to go for 90, but we can go for 90. Like you see that stat, I think it's Jamie Greer or something, and put it up on Twitter. We're averaging 25 points in the last 6 title wins, so we're averaging 24.6. I mean, the season's no. If we went in Europe, if we'd have get bumped out by, I know we're going to end up in the Europa League at worst, but if we'd have been bumped out, old style, old Rangers bumped out the Champions League qualifiers against some rubbish team from Lithuania.
Yeah.
Nobody would even mention it. Yeah. But it's just because of taking in big defeats. It's just sort of over and over us, and it's leaving a bad taste just now. But league-wise, to be sitting 25 points after 10 games, and it's been alluded to, it's really be 27 if it hadn't been for the Cullen show. And then deciding what to be centre of attention as player. I don't think points-wise it's not a terrible start to the season, despite that one shocker or assault. So I don't know. I find it hard with Gio in that people say we don't have a style, but then he doesn't have a style because he sets his team up to win games. He's not a Steven Gerrard. Well, we play 4-3-3 and we play out from the back every week, and people will get sick of that, which we're getting found out pretty quickly. Well, it did take a few years for Scottish teams to catch on right enough, but teams would just start pressing Tarbin, Bonner, and all of a sudden we were lost. I think it's maybe made it harder for the players with Gio as well, in that he will have two sitting midfielders and then he'll have one sitting midfielder, and then he'll want the wing backs pushing high, and we'll go a three at the back, so we're chopping and changing the way we're playing every week. But I mean, you get those positives and negatives to both styles. I mean, under Warburton, plan B, do plan A better. I don't know, is that what people want? I guess at the end of the day, it's churning out results. It's all that's going to matter. And if somebody wants to give me a 1-0 versus them in the New Year derby of Cholak's backside, then I'll gladly take it. Even if we're wrong, I don't care. If the result is going to matter at the end of the day, and if Joe can find a way to keep the team winning, then that's going to save his job, and it's going to get the supporters back on his side.
Yeah, I think the debate about the manager is certainly one that's going to rumble on. Ben, let's talk about another part of the match, one that I think will certainly have a lot more positives to it. We had a comment come in there talking about how impressed they were with Leon King today, particularly when he was up against Van Veen. I was just wondering what you thought of the youngster's performance, and also if you were happy with the partnership of him and Davies going forward, which is what it looks like it's maybe going to be until Goldson returns, or until indeed another centre-half returns.
Yeah, no, I was pleased with Leon King. He really grew into the game. I thought, he's up against a very physical, and a forward that's in form. And I think at the start, the physicality, he maybe struggled a wee bit, but then he really, he dug deep, and he grew into the game, and he was much better and dealt with him really well. And I think Ben Davies plays a big part in that as well in terms of organisation. And Ben Davies, I thought, was really, really good. And I would be pleased with that partnership. This is a big opportunity for Leon King, and one that so far, I mean, Leon King. The thing is, everyone was saying about this is a big opportunity and stuff, and it is. But anytime I've seen Leon King, he's looked ready. He's never looked totally like rabbit in headlights out of it. Out of his depth. And he certainly didn't today. He's really making good strides forward. And also I thought his interview for an 18-year-old after the game with RTV was really, really good. It was as if he's been doing it for ages. He seems to have the right mentality and character as well. And he will grow with every performance, and another good 90 minutes. And we keep a clean sheet, other than obviously a goalkeeping mistake that's got nothing to do with either the centre halves. So it's good for him. Yeah,
sure. From what I read today, a lot of people were calling out Davies he was coming in for a lot of praise. Do you feel that he has what it takes to step into that Goldson role for the time being? And I don't just mean in terms of his ability, but in terms of his those leadership qualities that we know Goldson has.
Yeah, he looks like he does. He looks very comfortable at the back. And it's just a shame that we finally seem to get him up to speed, and then Goldson takes an injury. Just our luck this season, what's going on with somebody's built a hex on my centre halves. Although still Helander hardly surprised that they're out long term again. But Davis definitely looks a class above anything else in the league. Left-sided as well. He pinged a couple of passes today. Pinged one bad one right enough, but a few really good ones. And hopefully, I think that's why he's going to be speaking king through the game. Kind of like Goldson was when he was on the other side. Like Ben, I'm really excited for the young king. I think it's a great opportunity for him, and he'll be opening his hands. I think it's brilliant that we've got one of our own coming through the team and into that position. And I think having somebody that Ben Davies' experience, I know he did play at Liverpool, but he did spend 18 months in amongst some of the best players in the world. And playing against the likes of Salah and Jota and I don't know if Diaz was there at the time, but Marnie was definitely there. So playing against these players all the time is going to be brilliant. So I am excited that Davies has got that potential to be that steady arm next to Young King, and then obviously he's got Tab on the other side of him, so he's got plenty of experience either side of him. So hopefully he'll go as well.
Yeah, I have to say, like you kind of alluded to there, it's certainly fantastic timing that Davies is finally gotten up to speed. I say fantastic timing. Obviously, we don't want Goldson to get injured, but I would rather Davies was up to speed now than we were still. This was 6 weeks ago when we were still kind of waiting on him. Ben, I want to pick up on a comment that came in right at the start. I hope the person's still with us. They were talking about, is there any worries about Yilmaz? Because obviously, again, from what I read today, Barisic seemed to be taking a bit of stick despite his assist. Is it maybe time for him to start coming into the side, particularly given he's probably got a big chance on Wednesday night? I mean, I know it's Dundee at home. They're a championship side, expected to win. Yilmaz will be expected to be on the front foot. But do you think if he does put in a good performance then it's time for him to maybe start really coming into the side more frequently?
I mean, I don't have any worries about him. He's a young kid. He's finding his feet in a new country, new language. But I actually did expect him to play today. Just Borna's been playing a lot. I mean, the one thing I would say for Borna is he has been relatively good this season. And I think the criticism of him, I don't think he was wonderful today, but again, he still gets the assist for the winner, doesn't he? But I feel like the criticism is a little unfair. I think he was passing back a little bit, particularly on Wednesday night and stuff, but there was no movement in front of him. That's the problem, and you have to remember that you've got Alexi Kent there who's not playing well in front of him, and that impacts him quite a bit. Yes, he was found out defensively the other night as well, not great. But I've no concerns about Yilmaz. I mean, Yilmaz came on last week in the league, and I thought was really, really good when he came on. So I think you've got to look at it from both ways. Borna's been pretty solid. Borna isn't the Borna that he was at the end of last season or at the in that February game in particular. He's been consistent. So that's a good thing, and maybe this competition has pushed him to be that. So Yilmaz will come in on Wednesday night, and that'll be good. And at the end of the day, it's up to the manager. It's up to Yilmaz. If Yilmaz comes in and he makes himself undroppable and grabs his shirt, then so be it. But I would like to see the likes of him being used that little bit more, from the bench and stuff. But he was used last week. As I say, I expected him to have started today. But I wasn't terribly worried that he didn't. He will get his chance at some stage, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had a comment come in there saying that perhaps Giovanni Van Bronckhorst should be getting asked a bit more why he isn't playing. I do recall a week or so ago it wasn't quite phrased in that way. I do understand where that question's coming from, but the manager did seem a bit more positive in terms of talking about how the player was settling in and sort of adapting to life, not just at Rangers but in a new country. As you mentioned, Ben, he is still quite a young man. Shug, just before we kind of talk, about some more sort of generic points to do with Rangers at the minute, where do you come down on the Yilmaz debate? Are you not necessarily worried, but are you a little bit surprised that he hasn't perhaps had more minutes up to this point?
Kind of and kind of not.
Yeah.
I've got to disagree and say I've never seen Borna have a poor game. I've only ever seen Borna have absolutely dreadfully awful games. Right? He never go about the poor. He always goes below it. It's like, I'm playing poor, I can be much worse than this, and he goes to that extent. But as Ben says, he's not been. I mean, he bad game against Liverpool, a bad game against Celtic, but it's not been terrible. And I know that when you look back at like the James Sands, he came in January, he didn't really play much, and then he played more at the start of this season. I've always talked about getting players, so Simon Goldsman's, getting them in January to give them that time to bed in, settle into the team and the way it plays. And when Yilmaz coming from Turkey, and judging by his interview, don't think he speaks a lot of English.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that with Gio, it's very tactical and got to be in the right positions at the right times and things like that. I think there's a whole lot of things to learn. And I mean, if it was on the other side, if he was a right back, then he might well have been getting game time with our struggling with this injury just now.
Yeah.
But I think with Bournemouth doing all right, I don't think there's any necessity in a real rush to get him into the team. And it's a bit easy. He's going to get his chance on Wednesday night against Dundee. And then if he puts in a big performance, then next couple of games at home, is that a chance to stop him in the league then? Who knows? But I'm not, as John Bennett said, he's signed for 5 years, not 5 weeks. So he's got plenty of time. And I wouldn't worry about the MSM talking up Galatasaray. I want them from Zornsborg. I want them to say we're going to throw him on the cheap because it's not certain. As you said, Gio seems pretty content with the way he's settling. So I'm not going to get angry or upset that he's not been played. Like, if you take that big price tag off and nobody's asking the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, Chuck. I was slightly distracted again. We have gone back to the wallpaper chat there, just briefly. I can't actually read out what it says, but I've at least chuckled at it slightly. Ben, let's talk about kind of where we are going forward. I mean, are you feeling it? How much do you think perhaps things are skewed? Perhaps isn't the right word, because the Champions League results are still results that are happening to Rangers, and they should still be. The side isn't immune from criticism, but people I think are talking about how the domestic league is the priority in the cups. We've had, a very good point there that Napoli and Liverpool have a chance to win the Champions League. Liverpool were in the final last year, and the way Napoli play, and look like they're going to win every single game that they play. Ajax, on top of that, were the pot one team. So I don't think people were maybe expecting much from this tournament. Admittedly, yes, they could have had a bit more pride in some of their performances, I would say. But are you feeling a bit more positive now, do you think, because we've got a couple of domestic games, especially at home, so there's a chance to really go out and get a couple of good results there?
Yeah, I mean, the Champions League is influencing people quite a bit, and when we qualified, when we didn't strengthen, I think that showed where we were going to be. We needed to strengthen, to be even. I mean, we could have strengthened, and the players that we'd be in the market for still would have had a big ask to be competing in that group. But yeah, domestically, at the end of the day, we're 2 points away. If we win every game, if it's 1-0, if it's 2-1, whatever, all the way to the World Cup, and then we beat them in the New Year derby, then we're going to be top of the league at the end of the day, if not already. So our domestic form had. All right, today wasn't the best performance, but before that, with 2 4-0 wins. So there's reasons to be positive domestically, and Europe's gone now. But it was always going to be once we got into that. It's our first season back in the Champions League. People keep talking about Club Bruges and stuff, but they've been in Champions League for 6 years or something like that, and they've built year on year and spent money from it. This is our first season. We need to be then, if we're going to try and compete, we need to strengthen. To have a Champions League squad. So we've got a striker who's in form in the league, and as you say, we've got two or three home games in a row, and hopefully we can build confidence, which is something we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shug. I mean, I suppose one thing that it is important to keep in mind is that those results obviously perhaps put the side in a position where, although we wanted a better performance for their own morale, it is important today that they did just go out and get 3 points. Do you think it's quite good going forward now that they've beat Motherwell, they've got the 3 points, and they can hopefully keep that momentum up, rather than what they've had the last few weeks, where they've had to go from domestic action to such a flip where, and I've said this in the podcast before, I'm not sure any other team in the Champions League has quite the same gap in terms of the way that they're playing in their domestic league versus the Champions League. So you feel a bit more positive that it's Dundee at home and then Livingston at home?
I don't know what you mean. Well, that's league gets the glory of playing Liverpool one week and then playing Motherwell at the weekend. I mean, that's hardly any difference there, I would say. Not much jump at all. But yeah, no, 100%. This is a week to really get confidence up and get our tails up. And Dundee at home should be straightforward. Already covered that point, but it should be a chance for us to go get a few players, Lundstrom, Tav, out of the team, Kent, players that have played a lot, give them some race time and get some of the fringe players in, and get a win, and then get a win next weekend to take out the Napoli game. And now that we're officially out of the Champions League, and well, it's not much of a chance of us getting third place either. I guess it's some way there's a bit of pressure taking off us, so we can really focus on domestically. I know it's the serial hater, Chris Sutton had a dig at Tav for his comments about how the league and cups are more important than the Champions League, which at the end of the day it is. So it'd be usually seen that as a defeat strategy or something. But he's right. At the end of the day, somebody says at the start of the season, "What you want good results," and I know I'll get my promise and another. You're going to get good results in league and cup games. So that's what bread and butter. That's an expenses. That's how we build. We keep getting it. We keep making money. We keep building, and then 5, 10, 15 years down the line, we maybe become like a Ajax or a Bruges and get through group stage to the Champions League. But I mean, Ajax were in the semi-finals a couple of seasons ago and going out. So I mean, we're playing against teams. Ajax bought our best player.
Yeah, I don't know it.
You know, it's like they've just bought our best player, and he's getting criticised across Poland. I mean, there's our stand-up performer. So you want to talk about leaps and jumps and things like that between the teams, and that's the third best team in the group. So yeah, realistically, the Champions League is definitely way above our level, but hopefully in time, in a few years' time, we can close the gap a little bit. One of our ever going to be favourites to win a Champions League, but hopefully get rid of these big defeats and stop being competitive at some point.
Yeah, Ben, I just want to come to you with one last point. We've only got a couple of minutes left. We've had some criticism in the comments of Van Bronckhorst's selection, and I think one that has stuck out, we've alluded to it a couple of times tonight, is Sakala not perhaps getting a start today. And Ben, I was just wondering, would you like to see him come back in this week? Because I don't really understand what he did to get dropped, if I'm completely honest, other than perhaps Van Bronckhorst just wanted to mix things up and use his squad. That's the only reason I can think of.
Yeah, I haven't been Sakala's biggest fan. However, he came in and he made an impact. And yeah, I was very surprised that he wasn't. I was surprised first he wasn't starting today, and then I was even more surprised that he wasn't brought on, particularly maybe when Scott Wright was brought on. I thought that was the time to give Sakala a chance, particularly because he seems to score every time he plays against Motherwell. But I would like to see him come in again and show the manager what he can do. I suppose if he's coming in there, you're wondering, does that mean that he's not in the thoughts for the league again at the weekend? But I suppose if he comes in and he puts a performance in, then he puts himself back into that position. There's part of me wonders, should Kent play on Wednesday to try and get a bit of form against the team from the league below? Although it could work a complete disaster, because if he doesn't do it against them, his confidence will take even more of a hit. But yeah, I would like to see Sakala playing on Wednesday. Yeah.
Shug, what do you make of that suggestion? Not necessarily that you're saying it should happen, Ben, but the idea that Kent should play because it's against lower league opposition. You would hope that it would maybe offer a chance to boost his confidence, or do you think he should just be rested / dropped?
Yeah, I'm rested / dropped. I thought his game against Hearts when he got the assist and the goal, I thought that maybe spur him on, but he's just went back in his shell again. So I think maybe a longer term out of the team with his home games coming up might be the sort of bit that he maybe needs. He's never spent more than one game, I think, out of the team when he's not been injured. I think that maybe be the next way of trying to get him up. Like Ben says, I was surprised. Like, I am Sakala's not his biggest fan, but I am a big fan of Sakala. And I don't know, I've not seen anything at all from the Tondo that puts him above Sakala in my head.
Yeah.
Both us look like similar types of players, get their head down and run. But Sakala produces numbers. It's one thing that I will always say with Sakala, is that he does produce numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need at the end of the day. There's somebody that's going to provide assists and provide goals. And and then for no other reason, he's got the best song for the fans. So that should be a plus side and get him in the team. Maybe Gio's just not a fan of Shakira, and that's why maybe that's the reason why Sakala's not getting in the team. But yeah, I genuinely don't know what Sakala needs to do. And I think what else is probably need is to be informed. So I would definitely have Sakala.
Maybe that's the answer to all our problems. Maybe it's the music taste that needs to change. Shug, I'll stick with you just before we leave. I'm wary of talking about the Dundee game too much because the lads will be back tomorrow and there'll be a bit of a focus on that. But what's your prediction for that match on Wednesday evening?
Yeah, I think it'll be comfortable. I think we'll win by a couple. I think we'll make probably 3 or 4 changes from the team today. We can't make too many because we just don't have that many players left. But I think we'll see a few changes. Tavernier will go out. I think Bora will go out. James Sands will probably come in. Not sure if it's still half or still in for Lundstrom. And I would hopefully see Sakala and Morelos get a run. So that's 5 changes.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. Shug, thanks for joining us tonight. And Ben, just before we head off, what's your prediction for the Dundee game?
I'm going to go 4-1 win. And I'm looking forward to seeing like Charlie McCann again too. And maybe a couple of goals from Morelos. Yeah, get him some minutes as well would be good.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Ben. Thanks for joining me tonight. Well, folks, that is us for the evening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you everyone that sent their comments in. You can all feast your eyes on the wallpaper one last time before we head off. The guys will be back tomorrow to look ahead to what the rest of the week has in store with Rangers taking on Dundee on Wednesday. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you all back here